Let's talk more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. The new movie has been out for a couple weeks now. The numbers are okay. It looks like it's doing fine. I think we passed 100 million worldwide, which is very impressive. Great thing to see for that movie. It was really fun. I did do a review of it if you want to see it here. I've also been doing a bunch of Ninja Turtle stuff for the entirety of this summer. It's been the Cowabunga summer here at Tsunami Studios. And to kind of wrap that up, I wanted to do a couple, this kind of more like topical videos talking about things that are interesting in the current state of Ninja Turtles. This one is kind of about Mutant Mayhem. Before the movie released, there was the article put out by Variety, if I'm not mistaken, that was like, yeah, we're doing it. We got a sequel greenlit. We have a 2-season animated series coming to Paramount Plus in the near future. They said near future. That to me means probably late 2024. I'd have to imagine it'd probably come out sometime June to November of 2024. That's my guess because it's been worked on. It's still being worked on. And the original voice actors will be back, so all of like the kids are coming back to do the show. On top of that, there is the sequel in the same animation style that Jeff Rowe will still be directing, which is very exciting. This is the perfect time to be an Ninja Turtles fan. We also got confirmation of like the Last Ronin video game coming out. The comic books are better than ever. They have so much stuff going on. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about like what we could see coming down the pipeline for the Mutant Mayhem world, because I think there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of areas to still explore. One of the best things about this new movie was the restraint it showed, setting up the larger world. There were teases, of course, there were characters introduced we could see down the line. It set up the world and the mythos well. It also modernized the canon to an extent that really worked. So spoilers for some of the stuff happening in Mutant Mayhem. If you haven't seen the movie, I do recommend it. It's a beautiful animation style. It's unlike any other Ninja Turtle movie. It's really incredible. But what this movie did more than I think any other was modernize the notion of the teenagers, where it's like in today's climate, and I talked about this in my review, in today's climate, there is a want and a desire for teenagers to be seen for the stuff they do. We have various social media apps and websites that are dedicated to younger people experiencing the world and talking about stuff like recording themselves, dancing or singing, or just having fun with their friends. What this movie set up is the idea that the Turtles are the same way. They don't want to be in the shadows. This entire movie is about their dad fearing for them, being seen by a world that might hate them, and then being accepted by a world that loves them. So much to the point that they go to school, and they're in high school, and they're going to do the high school thing, which is a really fun dynamic. And it's been explored kind of before, like that idea is very present, but they're not hiding who they are in like big trench coats and fedoras. They're kids who want to be seen with other kids and have fun like that, which sets up a whole other storyline that we can explore. Now, what we know about the TV series is very limited. It's called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which does give you like a serialized format. Like some of the stuff that was talked about with the shows, like the brothers are going to be tested like never before with new and old friends and allies. And that's kind of that's like very interesting because it sets up like this is going to be more focused on them as individuals as opposed to them being like a brother unit, which is kind of what the movie could be, and that makes sense. So I like the idea that if we're going to do like episodic stuff for the Turtles, they can be having their own adventures, which is kind of fun. If you saw the movie, there were like specific characters that connected with some of the Turtles. You know, Michelangelo and Mondo Gecko got along really good. Donatello kind of connected with like Wingnut and Leatherhead. Bebop and Rocksteady and Raphael all had like that angry energy. So if we're doing like classicer episodes, right? Maybe this one's about Michelangelo trying to like find his voice at school. Maybe he wants to do something for a talent show, needs help performing. Him and Mondo like try to like set up a routine or something like that. Or Donatello wants to like enter a robotics competition. He needs like Wingnut's help to like get a certain part or something like that. There is so much to explore in that capacity. You know, a wrestling tournament for Raphael and he wants to learn like a special move. Bebop and Rocksteady could help him out and that kind of thing. The movie ends with all of these guys kind of like connecting and having that close nature, and I think you could do something fun with that. And with that too, we have a high school setting now. So if we're in high school, there's a bunch of other characters that could show up. The obvious one, of course, the obvious character that could show up Casey Jones. We did not tease him in the slightest, which does sound like we're going to be setting him up for a sequel, which is great. Maybe he's from like a different school in the neighborhood and Raphael's got to like fight him in the wrestling ring or something. Maybe he's kind of like has a crush on April and he's kind of like jealous of Leonardo's attention towards April because she's taken an interest in him. He could just be like a street tough. There's so many other ways you could play with that. You could make the Purple Dragons themselves like a gang in the school. Like here's like this clique of like these ruffian kids who like maybe Raphael gets involved with them somehow. Maybe like they start picking on Donnie and then Raphael's like, well, can you just like stop picking on my brother? It's like, you know, that kind of thing. And maybe even Casey's a part of that clique too. That's a route to go. We know there's like an AV club happening at this school. Maybe there's an Irma in there, and maybe there's a Vernon in there. Vernon could be like the older senior kid who's like, you know, he does all like the morning announcements, like he's like the actual face, kind of like the popular kid. Or if you want to get a little more like fantastical, not do like characters that we know exist that are human, you could do a major step to like set up the sequel because we know this like TV series is going to be taking place between the movies. Maybe to infiltrate the Turtles at high school, a young woman named Karai shows up and she like starts to have not like a love triangle, but there's like tension between like, oh, Leonardo is seeing like this woman who's interested in like ninjutsu and he's like, oh, that's like where my attention lies too. And they can have that kind of conversation, which goes against like his connection building with April. Or even you could have it like maybe she is so good at everything that the Turtles like she's so smart and she can like help Donatello like study like some stuff, and they like talk about like chemistry and just like stuff. She could be like a huge like anime nerd and like that's their basis because we know this Donatello really likes anime, so maybe they like start talking about like a show they really enjoy. Maybe she's just good at all of it. She does like the improv stuff with Mikey and she's just doing a great job. And like they all start to like gain her trust just to be like ultimately betrayed. And the new friends that the Turtles are building, like April and Casey and Irma, are like, something's off about this girl. What's going on with her? That could be really fun too. Or, you know, you want to get a little bit more crazy. This is a school that's accepting of mutants. So maybe there are other mutants in the world that start to come to this school because they can feel accepted there. Maybe like a young salamander named Mona Lisa shows up and then Raphael's like, hubba hubba, who's this hot lizard? And you could just build up that tension now where like maybe she joins the drama club and he wants to impress her, so they have to do a Romeo and Juliet. Like, I just think this show has the potential to skew towards like a high school Antics with the Turtles, which could be really fun. It's not something that's happened before. And even so, it could be stuff happening outside of the school like that too. Maybe the punk frogs go to school there, you know? And suddenly like this new group of like 4 brothers takes the place of the Turtles and they feel like outcasts, like they're not popular anymore, that kind of thing. You could introduce like old Hob and Alopex from like the IDW comic and have them appear, become these more interesting characters at like a younger age. Maybe one of the mutants that's living at home becomes like a substitute teacher there. You could see like Leatherhead teaching a mechanic shop if you want. Maybe Bebop and Rocksteady, one of them becomes like the gym coach or something. Ray Fillet teaches a music class, you know? That kind of thing. You could do stuff like that. We spent so much time emphasizing the high school of it all, where the Turtles want to go to high school. It would be a shame to ignore the high school elements of that. You could also do something kind of connected to the Cynthia Utrom stuff. Maybe she gets like a low-level Utrom to like infiltrate the school as like, you know, a student or like a teacher. Like, here's this new teacher that showed up, like Jason Utrom or something, and it looks just like a freak. And maybe it's Krang in disguise. We specifically haven't mentioned Krang either, so I don't know what that's going to be. Or maybe because this school is accepting to mutants, other people from other dimensions start to show up and want to go here. You know, like Zach or Dax or any of the neutrinos. Maybe the neutrinos want to come here. And then there's like these cool kids that are like, kind of like out of touch. Like they lived so much in like the 80s. They got like that weird synthwave aesthetic to them. And the Turtles like, you guys are kind of weird. That's a very weird vibe you got going on. Maybe even a robot, and we could see Fugitoids show up. Maybe a young Triceraton shows up. This school let a turtle in. A bunch of them, actually. 4 turtles showed up to this school. Why not a dinosaur is all I'm saying. Could be kind of interesting. I do appreciate that. I like that we just, like, Yeah, obviously Casey will show up. Obviously we'll see some interpretation of classic characters forming an AV club. We'll see some formation of the Purple Dragons. But if we're in high school, let's see the punk frogs show up. Let's see some of those other characters show up and do something fun. You could age down a couple of the other characters. Maybe there's like a couple of bullies go there called Ground Chuck and Dirtbag, and one of them's like a bull and one of them's like a mole, and they're kind of like the bullies at this school now. And you realize some of these mutants are kind of like dicks or something. You know, I don't know how like young you'd want to make them. The ages of like the other mutants are kind of ambiguous. The turtles are like clinically younger because the other ones were like grown in a tube. So it's very vague. And if we're doing Tales of the TMNT, you could do an entire episode about Splinter and Scumbug going on a date. You could do an entire episode about them trying to find time to have like peace and quiet together when there's like a house full of other mutants. Could do something like that. Just standalone episodes like that. Splinter was really interesting in this iteration, and you should do more with him if given the chance. This series is also going to be 2D, and it's going to share like the same aesthetic, so there's going to be like some adjusting to that, trying to figure out what that could all look like, which it wouldn't be too bad. Why not? Obviously, we'll lean into every single aspect of these characters. Teenage stuff in high school, the mutant stuff, well, we're going to have a bunch of mutants show up. The ninja stuff, well, maybe they could train in different ways. Maybe they like go to like a karate class or something. That could be kind of fun. And the turtle stuff, we'll see what happens if there. But there's a lot of opportunities to explore. But we also have the confirmation of a sequel movie, which I don't know if they said was in active development yet. I don't imagine it would be. So don't expect this one for another few years, if that happens at all. There were reports that the working conditions of Mutant Mayhem were good, like the animators were treated fairly. Those were kind of comments from like the producer and the director, so it's kind of like take it with like a grain of salt. Maybe they're trying to like say like we were doing better than Across the Spider-Verse, which didn't seem like it's hard, but just I think there is probably some better working conditions at Paramount for this kind of thing than there would be at Sony. So that's very interesting. But a sequel movie is greenlit. Spoilers for Mutant Mayhem. There is a post-credit scene that reveals all the kids in high school. They go to like a homecoming dance. Leo and April are kind of having fun. And we see Cynthia Utrom's like, well, they're pretty easy to find. We should send in like our hitmen to find them. Enter the Shredder. Silhouette of the Shredder at the end of the movie, headed to New York. That's your sequel, right? Like, that's the sequel. The fact that we had the restraint not to do Shredder is pretty impressive. But your sequel movie is most definitely going to be the Shredder, which could tie into maybe Karai is at the school. And maybe if she's not like this impressive student that's like luring the turtles into a false sense of security, maybe she's just like a fan of them at the school. And the movie can lead into her being like, Dad, stop. These guys are cool. Why are you working for these weird aliens? And then that could lead into another movie, which is all about the turtles in space, where we do the Fugitoid and the Triceratons and the Utroms, and that could lead into Dimension X and the Neutrinos, and, you know, Captain Trag, like the rock soldiers. We could do it all. We will do it all. And that could lead to Krang. Shredder clearly feels like he's going to be the villain here. I could see this kind of going like he's going to maybe infiltrate the school. Maybe he becomes like a teacher or something. But it's going to be more like we can't find peace. Now that we're this public eye, everyone's going to be watching us. And this guy's going to find us at every moment. We're going to have to like train harder than ever to defeat him, which will be very interesting to see how that goes. This aesthetic kind of lends itself to the Shredder because there's so many just like angles and sharp edges, and he perfectly fits that aesthetic well. So just giving us like some cool animation beats for like the Shredder, that's going to be so fun to see. And I wonder because this isn't like something that happens all the time, but it did happen in the 2003 cartoon, which is the iteration I grew up on with these characters. The Shredder was an Utrom, because it kind of like merged the Krang and Shredder aesthetic into one. I wonder if because the Shredder is working for Cynthia, he is an Utrom, or if he has like connections to mutagen. Maybe he was like a genetically created human that's been around since feudal Japan that the Utroms have been experimenting on, and he's like this agent of destruction, kind of like a doomsday to a Superman kind of scenario. That would be interesting too. Or maybe he's just like, I know the training style, but it's like, you could do like the history between Hamato Yoshi and Oroku Saki, but the movie doesn't really set that up. We don't even mention either of those names. So Splinter's kind of like an independent rat who like grew up on the street. He wasn't like trained or like the pet of Hamato Yoshi. So that doesn't really work. So there's no like longing connection between Splinter and Shredder. So you don't have to play into that angle too much. There's nothing you could really like manipulate from that, which I get. Maybe this Shredder already has his own minions that he's working with. Maybe he has the Rat King at his disposal, and the Rat King can lead into Splinter having to fight his sons when he's under mind control or something. Maybe this Shredder knows Baxter Stockman and he's going to get like the mutagen from Stockman to become the Super Shredder or something like that, which makes sense. I feel like when we're doing this universe very heavily into the mutant mayhem of it all, where it's like this is a mutant world, the Shredder becoming Super Shredder feels very likely and something that could plausibly happen in this world, which I don't think's bad at all. That could be a fun thing to explore too. There is so much potential here. Clearly the Shredder will be a main bad. If we want to go beyond that, there are very, very hard elements you could hit. We could go deep into space. We could do the time travel stuff. We could change it up to extremes in so many different ways. Maybe Raynette shows up, like the time traveler lady could happen. Wouldn't it be cool if we did like a multiversal thing? I mean, I wouldn't want to see it right away, but hey, 4 movies down the line, if we did like a Turtles Forever adjacent story, and maybe they meet like a Venus de Milo or a Jenica, and they're like, wow, this is weird, or something like that. Could be kind of cool. Or, weird pull if you wanted to do like, do you remember how like in the Smurfs, Gargamel created Smurfette to infiltrate the layer, but then Smurfette's like, you guys are way better than that bald guy. Maybe Shredder or Cynthia does like that with like a Venus de Milo, and like they create like a female turtle that's supposed to like infiltrate, but then she learns to become a part of the family. I mean, maybe that's a little too on the nose. But even so, if we're doing like time stuff, and if we go like the time travel route, it would be kind of cool to bring in some more modern stuff with the Turtles, and they go into a future where this version of Michelangelo has become the last Ronin, and it's like a dark dystopian thing. You could change the art aesthetic to look a little more like drastic. That could be interesting. There's a possibility to explore. So much story to tell. So many ways to go. We don't have a Krang and we don't have a Casey. We don't even have a Shredder. We have a Tease. But those are essential characters that haven't come up yet. And we have a lot of platforms for them to show up. A TV show and a sequel movie. This brand is going strong. There have been reports that it made like $1 billion in 2023 alone. So don't expect Turtle stuff to slow down. It's only going to be ramping up from here, which is great. There's not that many bad Turtle stuff right now. The comic books are good. The movie is good. Rise of the TMNT was very fun. So it's good. This brand is going strong. Who knows where it's going to go from here? That's pretty exciting. But let me know your thoughts. What would you want to see from a sequel? What do you want to see the TV show be? Endless possibility. And with that, we're going to end the video. So thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Turtle Power. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.